We are kicking off today with NXT, which aired from Lowell, Massachusetts, a city steeped in WWE history, so a vignette aired to highlight this past. This vignette included names like Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Steve Austin, The Rock, The Undertaker, and many more in an electrifying way to kick off the show. This week's NXT saw plenty of big stars associated with the silver brand, but perhaps the biggest star of them all remained behind the scenes. Fightful Select reports that CM Punk was at the show, though as we saw, the best in the world did not make an appearance. Punk was present throughout the day and was seen to be openly hanging out during rehearsals, and Punk has spent a lot of time with the NXT roster since last year's return. Punk has even spoken of possibly taking a role with NXT when his in-ring days are done, and the roster would be wise to learn from one of wrestling's current top names. Now, Eddie Thorpe has had a tough time in recent weeks, but it seemed his luck had changed last week when he tricked GM Ava into granting him an NXT championship opportunity. After signing the contract for the match, Thorpe shared that he faked his own backstage attack to secure the title shot, and on this week's show, Ava accused Thorpe of taking a shortcut. Though she disapproved of his efforts, Ava acknowledged that the deal had been signed, leaving her no power to change things, and Thorpe argued that he worked smarter, not harder. Thorpe said Ava could call him whatever she wanted, but she'd be calling him NXT champion by the end of the night, as he was immensely confident in his abilities ahead of the match. Sure enough, Thorpe's abilities allowed him to dominate much of the action, and a DDT could have sealed him the win had the referee not been down at the time. By the time a second official arrived, Williams kicked out to keep his reign alive and ultimately turned the tide, landing a trick shot for the win. Things weren't done yet, as Thorpe argued that his foot was under the ropes during the pin and disputed with the referees before Ava stormed to ringside. Shawn Michaels then became involved in the drama, and fans were intrigued to see how HBK, who recently had a physical altercation with Thorpe, would address the finish. Just as things seemed to be reaching a crescendo, the CW cut the broadcast, leaving fans without answers other than Trick Williams is still the NXT champion. Williams' New Year's Evil showdown with Femi remains intact, but the unresolved issues from this week's show have left fans demanding for answers. The match begun with less than 15 minutes left, meaning there was no way the bout and what happened after would have had enough time, and a commercial break only hurt the pacing. The match never truly clicked, and Thorpe never seemed like a real threat to Trick, even with the messy finish that will likely see him added to the title match at New Year's Evil. This was a weird choice, especially when NXT had a great singles story for New Year's Evil, and while Thorpe is playing the spoiler role, it feels like he was not built for this spot. On the positive side of things, WWE did not make Thorpe a one-off threat, showing they are committed to him being a top heel in the long term once he has more high-profile matches. This could be Thorpe taking the NXT North American title from Tony D'Angelo once he's finished his role in delaying Trick vs. Femi one-on-one to a future PLE. As for the show's abrupt exit, NXT shared footage from after the show on Twitter, in which Thorpe shoved Shawn Michaels in frustration over what had happened. Before Thorpe could go any further though, Trick Williams intervened and floored his opponent with a trick kick, while it was confirmed that their title match had ended in a no contest. That means that Williams retains the gold, but this was a very messy finish that was hurt by the abrupt ending, which left fans wondering what was going on, and not in a good way. But what do you think? Did the CW's abrupt end hurt the show? Should Shawn Michaels address what happened next week? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Ethan Page has been frustrated as of late, with his problems really getting started in October when he lost the NXT Championship to Trick Williams. Not only has he failed to regain the gold, but he failed in the Iron Survivor Challenge, and though some predicted an imminent main roster call-up, he still has a story to tell in NXT. Page interrupted the commentary following the NXT tag title match and seemed utterly disheartened as he discussed his journey in wrestling. Page recalled making a promise to his daughter and making history by becoming NXT champion in record time, and grew angrier as he spoke about keeping that promise to his daughter. All Ego shared that he'd lost his smile, echoing the words of Shawn Michaels from 1997, which were said in the exact same arena that this week's NXT was taking place. Javon Evans arrived to try and calm Page down, saying that he saw the real Ethan Page at Heatwave, where he told his wife that he loved her. Evans said that the joy Page has for his family is the real Ethan Page, and Javon's request to see the real Page even had the fans cheering for the former champion. Page said that he should be more worried about taking Javon Evans' smile, and clocked the young OG with the microphone and placed Evans' head in a steel chair before stomping down. Paige declared that this is the real me, as NXT officials and medical staff checked on Evans in a great follow-up to the sad Ethan Page storyline and marks Evans' first literal blood feud. In backstage footage shared by NXT, Evans could be seen bleeding profusely into a towel while staff evaluated him, leaving fans to speculate as to the nature of his injuries. Evans and Page have always looked good together when sharing the ring, but this is going to be more than building to a match, as it'll serve for a chance for the young OG to get serious. The sad Ethan story could have gone multiple ways, but this was probably the best outcome for NXT's immediate future and the character development of Javon Evans. Now, LA Knight is one of the most popular superstars WWE has today, but fans eager to see him at a meet and greet yesterday were left disappointed. Lucan's Wine and Spirits, where Knight was supposed to be, shared the unfortunate update that the megastar would not be appearing due to an injury and Braun Strowman would replace him. Knight last wrestled during the December 13th tapings of SmackDown, where he was part of a 6-man tag team match that'll air as part of this Friday's show. Interestingly, there were no reports on an injury following that taping, and that's because as far as WWE is concerned, the statement by Lucans was incorrect. WWE sources who spoke to Fightful said that Knight's absence is not injury-related, but instead he was not booked for the meet and greet in the first place. If so, it's certainly odd for Lucans to say that Knight wouldn't be attending a meet and greet he was never meant to be at, and similarly odd that they'd chalk it up to a non-existent injury. Whatever the case, Strowman stepping in is a solid consolation prize for fans, as the massive superstar brought a lot of fun and energy to the meet and greet. One fan posted that they were bummed about not meeting Knight, but called Braun a hell of a replacement, and we'll have to see what's to come next for LA Knight. The megastar has recently run afoul of the bloodline, and while he wasn't at the meet and greet as some believed, reports of an injury have been greatly exaggerated. Before this week's Raw, WWE hosted its main event tapings, which saw NXT talents battle it out as Wes Lee took on Dion Lennox. Unfortunately, PW Insider reports that Lee was hurt in the match, but he was still able to finish that bout that saw the former North American champion get the win. Wes did not have a role to play during this week's edition of NXT, and we hope to provide an update on the athletic superstar when more news is available. On this week's episode of Raw, things were taken to a dramatic level backstage as Kairi Sane was seen as the victim of an attack and her hand had been injured in a crate. Many naturally pointed the finger of blame at Pure Fusion Collective, who have been feuding with Damage Control for some time, but new clues have revealed an alternate suspect. First, it's worth pointing out that the PFC were seen standing over the production crate with the screaming Kairi on the ground, and the trio ran when Io Sky and Dakota Kai showed up. Interestingly, there was no actual footage of the PFC attacking Sane, and WWE dropped clues that suggested it was Kai who took out her own ally. When WWE's camera switched from the New Day to the PFC, fans could see Kai standing nearby, but far enough that fans wouldn't naturally assume that she had attacked Sane. On Raw Talk, a Wyatt 6 glitch was briefly shown around Kai, suggesting that she could be joining the faction next, and potentially confirming that she's turning on her current stable. In an interview, Kai herself blamed the PFC for the attack as she said, "We don't have an update on Kairi, but what we do know is PFC has crossed the line way too many times. They're done, and we're done playing these games. They want to walk around and own the place like they own the division? Well, they'll never hold up to what we have in Damage Control, so as soon as Kairi is good, we're putting PFC on the shelf for good." Kai's line suggested that the PFC were not as close-knit as Damage Control, which is not the case at all, and WWE's creative team were making it clear to viewers that Kai isn't being honest. Kai will face Zoe Stark in the semifinals of the Women's Intercontinental Tournament, and there's a chance she'll face Io Sky, who is replacing Sane in the finals. We will have to wait and see when WWE will reveal Kai to be Sane's attacker, as a heel turn seems to already be brewing for the New Zealand superstar. Do you feel Dakota Kai is the one who attacked Kairi Sane, or is it a red herring? What's your take on the possibility of a Damage Control betrayal? Share your thoughts down below. TNA Wrestling has been experiencing a significant shakeup in recent days, with the unexpected departure of several key talents leaving fans in shock, and the reasons behind these exits have now come to light. During a discussion on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer revealed that more departures might be on the horizon. According to Meltzer, numerous stars, including Rhino, were asked to accept pay cuts, which influenced their decisions to leave the promotion. The wave of exits began shortly before Final Resolution, when Hall of Famer Rhino announced that the event would mark his final appearance in a TNA ring. While Rhino made it clear he wasn't retiring, he confirmed that he was parting ways with the company. On December 17th, the departures continued, with international stars Trent Seven and Kushida, along with ring announcer Jade Chung, announcing they would not be renewing their contracts. In a related update, Jade Chung's husband and former world champion Josh Alexander shared in a previous interview that he would become a free agent in February. Reports also suggest that TNA star AJ Francis' contract is nearing its expiration, with free agency likely looming by the end of the year. These departures stem from financial adjustments within the company, and it seems the TNA roster could face further shifts as the promotion heads into 2025. Fans are left speculating about how these changes might impact the company's future direction. What's your take on TNA's recent roster shakeup? Should the company have done more to retain these stars? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Kamille, who had been serving as Mercedes Monet's bodyguard in AEW for several months, made headlines last month after abruptly quitting her role due to alleged mistreatment and abuse from Monet. Following her departure, Kamille was written off AEW television, leaving her future with the company shrouded in uncertainty. Providing an update on Kamille's status, Brian Alvarez shared on Wrestling Observer Radio that her return to AEW appears unlikely. He explained, "I don't know if we're going to see her again. I wouldn't be surprised. It's like she was mentioned once after the angle happened and never again." Kamille's mysterious disappearance occurred during a prior episode of AEW Rampage, where she was abruptly taken out, sparking fan speculation about Monet's possible involvement. Monet added fuel to the fire with a cryptic tweet saying, "There's a price to pay when you mess with Monet," which only deepened the intrigue surrounding the incident. This marked the last time Kamille appeared on AEW programming, and fans have been left in the dark ever since. To complicate matters further, Kamille has openly criticized AEW for its handling of her character, claiming the company failed to give her opportunities to showcase her range. Whether Kamille will return to AEW to reignite her feud with Monet remains to be seen, but her prolonged absence and lack of updates suggests it may not happen. Fans are increasingly worried that her time with AEW could be over before it truly began. What do you think about Kamille's situation? Is her AEW journey over, or could we still see her make a dramatic return? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Back to NXT, as the Unholy Union made a surprise appearance in NXT, and the pair had not been seen on any WWE programming since the October 7th Raw. In their first televised appearance in over 2 months, the duo had a backstage segment with Fatal Influence and discussed their feud with Shotzi, Tatum Paxley, and Gigi Dolan. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn shared that they see a united front when they look at Shotzi's group, but don't with Fatal Influence, a nod to the tensions between Fallon Henley and JC Jane. This marked the Unholy Union's first NXT appearance since the July 30th episode, and we'll have to see if more appearances are in store for the former WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. In tag team action, Ruca and Zaria looked great as a team, but one small miscommunication allowed for Jakara Jackson to take Zaria outside. Lash legend squashed Ruca with the bougie bully drop to get the win, a surprise given that all signs pointed to the makeshift Zaria-Ruca duo getting the W. Instead, the established team got a win that was needed for Metaphor and puts them back on track, even if it meant another loss for Zaria early in her NXT career. Zaria and Ruca have chemistry to explore, but it's a better story for them to work on it before things click into place, but this was still a really good match given the level of experience. Zaria stood out whenever she was in control, and a future rivalry with Lash Legend is something for NXT to explore down the line. Axiom pushed Oba Femi, but the ruler wouldn't be denied and caught the tag champion's attempt at a golden ratio, only to throw him across the ring. A pop-up powerbomb secured the win for Femi, and this match continued to show that everyone in NXT can benefit from working with Axiom. As good as Femi has looked in the past, he looked even more dangerous against the masked star, whose bumping alone took the action to the next level. This was never going to be a back-and-forth drama, as it made sense for Femi to win, and the #1 contender is showing each week that he can work with the best. Should he dethrone Trick Williams at New Year's Evil, he'll be ready to carry the NXT title, presumably for a lengthy reign if his North American title run is any indication. Footage aired of Dion Lennox and Karmen Petrovic talking about Ashanti the Adonis, with Lennox saying Petrovic should apologize. The pair hugged, which was spotted by Adonis, who blew a gasket and argued that if they're gonna hug, he would call Nikita Lyons. When Jaida Parker faced Wren Sinclair, there were some issues between OTM and the No Quarter Catch crew at ringside before Parker hit Hypnotic to seal the victory. Limited time and a lack of chemistry stopped this match being anything above a filler match, though Parker needed this win after her NXT Underground setback. Sinclair continues to inch closer to success despite not attaining too many wins, which appears to be the case for the entire faction outside of Charlie Dempsey. As for OTM, they should be a major priority in NXT in 2025, as Bronco Nemo and Lucian Price need to pick up some momentum if they ever want to enter title contention. Backstage, Tatum, Paxley, Gigi Dolan, and Shotzi played with dolls and talked about what they'll do to Fatal Influence, and Shotzi said she helped out the pair because they remind her of herself. Tatum said that they're the two friends she didn't know she needed, and she's so glad that they'll play with her before vowing to rip the heads off of Fatal Influence like she does with her dolls. In his second match of the night, Axiom fought through the pain to help Nathan Frazer in their tag title match with Gallus, including hitting a top rope Spanish fly on Wolfgang. Axiom followed up with a dive onto Mark and Joe Coffey outside the ring, while Frazer, sporting a face mask due to a ruptured septum, hit a Phoenix Splash on Wolfgang to retain the gold. The champs fell into the same old tropes fans have seen in their tag matches, though that's somewhat excusable given the level of high-octane action delivered with various opponents. This was another great match and a career highlight for Gallus, and the fact that the champions are constantly working hurt is an intriguing wrinkle in their story. The champs are pushing themselves more and more in each match, and with the family watching this match closely in private, teasing a future showdown. It looks likely that the end is coming for Fraxium's title reign, though who will ultimately dethrone them remains to be seen, but the hurting champions will eventually run out of steam. And we're ending with Vince McMahon, whose reputation has taken a beating in recent years with both the Hush Money scandal and Janelle Grant's lawsuit seeing him part ways with WWE. Of course, there have been claims about McMahon for years before these two scandals, and recently, Kurt Angle shared a unique take on his former boss. Speaking to Inside the Ropes, Kurt said that the former WWE CEO was crazy and drew attention when he said Vince McMahon is going to hell when he dies. This quote spread like wildfire, but Angle felt the need to clarify, saying that his comment about an eternity of fire awaiting McMahon was meant to be a joke. Angle also pointed out that during the interview he complimented Vince on his business mindset and incredible work ethic, and noted that outlets had chosen to leave these comments out. Angle worked closely with McMahon both on and off screen in WWE, and has in the past referred to the former chairman as something of a father figure. But what do you think of all this? Was Angle taken out of context? Was his comment merely a joke or something else in your opinion? Let us know your thoughts on this in the comments.